Emma Rodriguez wiped flour from her hands as she climbed the narrow stairs to her small Brooklyn apartment. The smell of roses and baby's breath still clung to her clothes from another long day at Petals and Dreams, the little flower shop where she arranged bouquets for other people's special moments. At 26, Emma had grown comfortable in her quiet life, creating beauty for others while staying safely in the background herself, a mysterious delivery. The cream-colored envelope waited outside her door, elegant and expensive-looking. Emma picked it up, expecting to find her neighbor's name, but instead saw her own written in gold calligraphy. Inside was an invitation that made her gasp. The wedding of James Wellington III and Victoria Sterling would take place at the Plaza Hotel next Saturday. The invitation was thick, embossed, clearly meant for someone much more important than a Brooklyn florist. Emma had heard of the Wellington family. Everyone in New York had. They owned Wellington Technologies, a company that had revolutionized social media platforms. James Wellington III was often featured in business magazines, always photographed in expensive suits with a serious expression. Victoria Sterling came from old money, the kind of family that had been wealthy for generations, a moment of rebellion standing in her tiny kitchen. Emma stared at the invitation. Logic told her to return it or throw it away. But something deep inside, a part of herself she rarely listened to, whispered a different suggestion. When would she ever get another chance to see how the other half lived? To step inside a world of glamour and wealth, even just for a few hours? The rational part of her mind listed all the reasons this was a terrible idea. She didn't know anyone there. She had nothing appropriate to wear. Someone would surely realize she didn't belong. But the dreamer in her, the part that arranged flowers and imagined the love stories behind each bouquet, won the argument. Preparing for the unknown, I spent the next week preparing. She found a simple navy dress at a thrift store and had it altered to fit perfectly. She practiced walking in heels and watched videos about proper etiquette at formal events. Her reflection showed a nervous but determined young woman ready to step outside her comfort. The zone Saturday arrived with perfect spring weather. Emma took the subway to Manhattan, her heart pounding with each stop. The Plaza Hotel rose before her like a palace, its golden facade gleaming in the afternoon sun. Luxury cars dropped off guests in designer gowns and tailored suits. Emma smoothed her dress and took a deep breath. Entering a different world, the ballroom took Emma's breath away. Crystal chandeliers cast rainbow reflections across white silk draping. Thousands of white orchids created a winter wonderland in the middle of spring. Round tables sparkled with gold chargers and crystal glasses. Emma had arranged flowers for many weddings, but nothing like this. She found an empty seat toward the back, trying to make herself invisible. Around her, conversations flowed about art auctions, charity galas, and summer homes in the Hamptons. Emma listened, fascinated by this glimpse into lives so different from her own. The ceremony begins. Soft music filled the room as the wedding party entered. Victoria Sterling was stunning in a dress that probably cost more than Emma made in a year. Her blonde hair was swept into an intricate updo, and diamonds sparkled at her throat. She moved with the confidence of someone who had never doubted her place in the world. Then James Wellington III appeared at the altar. Emma had seen his photos, but in person he was more striking than she had imagined. Tall and broad-shouldered, with dark hair and intense green eyes, he should have looked like the happiest man alive. Instead, his expression seemed distant, almost troubled. As Victoria approached, something strange happened. James's gaze began to wander over the crowd, as if he were searching for something. His eyes moved from row to row, table to table, until suddenly they found Emma. The moment that changed everything, time seemed to freeze. James stared directly at Emma, his expression shifting from confusion to recognition to something that looked almost like relief. Emma felt her cheeks burn. She wanted to look away, to disappear, but something held her gaze locked with his. The officiant began speaking, but James continued to stare at Emma. Whispers rippled through the crowd as people noticed the groom's distraction. Victoria's smile faltered as she followed his gaze. "Do you, James Wellington III, take Victoria Sterling to be your lawfully wedded wife?" the officiant asked. The ballroom fell silent. Every eye turned to James, waiting for the expected response. Instead, James stepped back from the altar, his voice carrying clearly through the room. "I can't do this." Chaos erupts, gasps echoed through the ballroom. Victoria's face went white, then red with humiliation and anger. James's family looked stunned. But James wasn't finished. He raised his hand and pointed directly at Emma, because the woman I should be marrying is sitting right there. The crowd turned, as one to stare at Emma, hundreds of eyes fixed on her, some curious, some angry, all demanding to know who she was and why she had destroyed this perfect society wedding. Emma felt as if she might faint from the attention and confusion. The flight without thinking, Emma bolted. She pushed past other guests, her heels clicking on the marble floor as she ran toward the exit. Behind her, she could hear shouting, Victoria's cries, and footsteps following her. She didn't stop until she reached the hotel lobby. Gasping for breath and fighting back tears, "Please wait," a voice called behind her. Emma turned to see James Wellington III, still in his wedding tuxedo, looking disheveled and desperate. His perfect hair was messed up, his bow tie crooked. He looked nothing like the polished businessman from magazine covers. The impossible recognition, "How do you know who I am?" Emma demanded, her voice shaking. James ran his hand through his hair, making it even messier. "The coffee shop on Fifth Avenue, 6 months ago. You were arranging flowers for their weekend display. You dropped your sketch pad and I helped you pick up the drawings." Emma's mind raced back. She remembered that day, remembered a kind stranger who had complimented her flower arrangements and asked thoughtful questions about her work. But it had been such a brief encounter, maybe 10 minutes at most. "That was you?" she whispered. "I've thought about that conversation every day since," James said quietly. "You talked about flowers like they were poetry. You made me see beauty in things I'd never noticed before. I tried to find you afterward, but you were gone." The impossible choice, Emma shook her head in disbelief. "So you stopped your wedding because you remembered a florist you talked to once?" "I stopped my wedding because seeing you there made me realize I was about to make the biggest mistake of my life," James replied. "Victoria and I don't love each other. Our families arranged this marriage for business reasons. But when I saw you, I remembered what it felt like to connect with someone real, around them." The hotel lobby buzzed with activity as wedding guests streamed out. Talking excitedly about the scandal they had witnessed, Emma felt overwhelmed by the attention, the chaos, and the impossible situation she had stumbled into. "This is crazy," she said, backing toward the door. "I don't belong here." "I don't belong in your world, maybe," James said, his eyes never leaving her face. "But maybe the world we both belong in is something we could create together." Before Emma could respond, hotel security approached, clearly intending to control the situation. The moment was broken, but something had begun. Something that would change both their lives forever. As Emma finally escaped into the busy New York streets, her mind spun with questions. Had she just destroyed an innocent woman's wedding day? Was James Wellington III truly interested in her? Or was this some kind of elaborate joke? And most importantly, what was she supposed to do now that her quiet, predictable life had been turned completely upside down? The accidental invitation had led to an impossible moment, but whether it would lead to happiness or heartbreak remained to be seen. Emma woke to her phone buzzing relentlessly on her nightstand. Sunlight streamed through her small apartment windows, and for a moment she wondered if yesterday had been an elaborate dream. Then she saw the dozens of missed calls and messages, and reality crashed back. The first message was from her coworker at the flower shop. "Emma, you're on the front page of every gossip website in the city." Her hands trembling, Emma searched online. There she was, a blurry photo of her fleeing the Plaza Hotel. This went headlines screaming about the mystery woman who had destroyed New York's wedding of the year. The comments were brutal. Gold digger, homewrecker, social climber, each word cut deeper than the last. An unexpected visitor, a soft knock at her door, made Emma freeze. Through the peephole, she saw a woman in an elegant coat, her silver hair perfectly styled. Emma recognized her immediately from photos. Margaret Wellington, James's mother and one of New York's most powerful socialites, Miss Rodriguez. Margaret said when Emma hesitantly opened the door. "We need to talk." Margaret's presence made Emma's tiny apartment feel even smaller. The older woman's sharp blue eyes took in every detail: the second-hand furniture, the sketches of flower arrangements pinned to the walls, the modest surroundings that spoke of a simple life. "I assume you know who I am," Margaret began, settling gracefully onto Emma's worn sofa. "What you may not know is that my son has turned our family into a laughingstock. The Sterling family is threatening to sue for breach of contract. Our business relationships are in jeopardy." Emma found her voice. "I never asked for any of this." "Perhaps not," Margaret replied coolly. "But you're here now, in the middle of it. The question is, what do you intend to do about it?" The offer Margaret opened her designer purse and withdrew a check. Emma's eyes widened at the amount written there. Enough money to open her own flower shop. To change her entire life. "This is what we're prepared to offer," Margaret said. "In exchange, you disappear. Leave New York. Start fresh somewhere else. My son is going through a phase, but he'll come to his senses soon enough." Emma stared at the check. Part of her wanted to take it and run. It would solve all her financial problems and get her out of this impossible situation. But another part of her, the part that had been awakened by James's words yesterday, rebelled against the idea. "What if I don't want to disappear?" Emma asked quietly. Margaret's smile was ice cold. "Then you'll discover just how difficult life can become for someone who doesn't know her place." "Ah, what?" Different perspective after Margaret left. Emma sat in stunned silence. She was still processing the encounter when another knock came. This time, she opened the door to find a young woman about her own age, with kind brown eyes and a warm smile. "I'm Sophia Chen," the woman said. "I was the wedding planner for yesterday's disaster. Can I come in?" Emma was surprised by Sophia's request, but something about her manner seemed genuine. As they sat together, Sophia shared a different perspective on what had happened. "I've planned hundreds of weddings," Sophia said. "I can always tell when a couple is truly in love versus when they're just going through the motions." James and Victoria were definitely going through the motions. There was no spark, no joy. It was like watching two actors performing a script. Sophia leaned forward earnestly. What James did was shocking, yes. But it was also honest. Maybe for the first time in his life. The real James Wellington is, if summoned by their conversation. Emma's phone rang. James's name appeared on the screen. With Sophia's encouraging nod, Emma answered, "Can we meet somewhere?" James's voice was tired but determined. "Somewhere we can actually talk without photographers hiding in the bushes." Sophia smiled and wrote down an address. "My grandmother's garden," she whispered. "It's private and beautiful. Perfect for a real conversation." An hour later, Emma found herself in a hidden courtyard in Chinatown, surrounded by blooming jasmine and cherry trees. James was already there, and she barely recognized him. Gone were the expensive suit and polished appearance. Instead, he wore jeans and a simple sweater. His hair slightly messy, its expression more relaxed than she had ever seen it. "Getting to know each other, this is who I really am," James said, gesturing to his casual clothes. Not the heir to Wellington Technologies, not the society prince. Just James. They talked for hours as the afternoon sun filtered through the garden leaves. Emma learned that James had wanted to be a teacher, that he loved hiking and camping, that he felt trapped in a life that had been planned for him since birth. In return, she shared her dreams of opening a flower shop that would specialize in unique, artistic arrangements, her love of painting, her close relationship with her younger brother Miguel. "The coffee shop conversation," James said suddenly. "Do you remember what you told me about flowers?" Emma thought back. "I said that every flower has a story. That when you arrange them right, you're not just making something pretty. You're creating a moment of beauty that might change someone's entire day. That's exactly what you did for me," James said softly. "In that 10-minute conversation, you showed me a different way of seeing the world. a way that was about creating beauty instead of just accumulating wealth. The weight of different worlds is. The sun began to set. The magic of the garden couldn't completely shield them from reality. Emma's phone buzzed with notifications from social media, each one more vicious than the last. Someone had found her address and posted it online. Someone else had discovered where she worked. "I don't know if I can do this," Emma said, showing James the worst of the comments. "Your mother visited me today. She offered me money to disappear." James's jaw tightened. She had no right to do that. "Maybe she had a point, though," Emma said, her insecurities rising. "Look at this." She gestured to her simple dress, her nervous hands. "I work in a flower shop. I live in a studio apartment. I've never been to a charity gala or an art auction. How can this possibly work?" A moment of truth, James took her hands in his. "Do you know what I was thinking about during my own wedding ceremony? I was wondering if I'd ever feel truly alive. If I'd ever have a conversation that mattered, care about something more than quarterly profits." He looked directly into her eyes. "Then I saw you sitting there, and I remembered what it felt like to be genuinely interested in what someone else was saying. To laugh at something that was actually funny, instead of politely chuckling at appropriate moments." Emma felt tears forming. "But the world you come from, the expectations, your family..." My family owns a technology company," James said. "Do you know how that company was started? My grandfather was an immigrant who repaired radios in his garage. He married my grandmother, who was a seamstress. They built something from nothing because they believed in each other. An unwelcome interruption there. Intimate moment was interrupted by the sound of heels clicking on stone. Victoria Sterling appeared at the garden entrance, her face a mask of controlled fury. She was still beautiful, still perfectly dressed. But there was something sharp and dangerous in her expression. "How touching," Victoria said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. The runaway groom and his little flower girl, playing Romeo and Juliet. Emma instinctively moved closer to James, who stood protectively beside her. "Victoria, what do you want?" James asked wearily. "What do I want?" Victoria laughed, but there was no humor in it. "I want my reputation back. I want the humiliation to end. But since I can't have that, settle for making sure you both understand the consequences of what you've done." The threat. Victoria's perfectly manicured fingers held up her phone, showing photos of Emma entering and leaving her apartment. Building. "It's amazing how much information is available about people these days," Victoria continued. "Emma Rodriguez, age 26, works at Petals and Dreams Flower Shop. Owes $17,000 in student loans. Has a brother named Miguel who's struggling to pay for community college." Emma felt cold fear wash over her. Victoria wasn't just talking about her. She was threatening her family. "You have 48 hours to end whatever this is," Victoria said to James. "Announce that it was a momentary lapse of judgment. Apologize publicly. And then we can salvage what's left of both our reputations." She turned to Emma with a smile that never reached her eyes. "As for you, little florist, I suggest you take Margaret Wellington's generous offer, because if you don't, I'll make sure that every person in your life suffers for your delusions of grandeur." The choice after Victoria left. Emma and James sat in stunned silence. The beautiful garden suddenly felt less like a sanctuary and more like a place where harsh reality had intruded. "She's not bluffing," Emma said quietly. "She has the power to destroy my brother's future, to get me fired, to make life impossible for everyone I care about." James's hands clenched into fists. "I won't let her hurt you or your family." "How can you stop her?" Emma asked. "She's right about one thing. This is the world you come from. These are the people who have the power to crush someone like me without even thinking about it." Emma stood up, her decision crystallizing. "Maybe your mother was right. Maybe I should take the money and disappear. It would be better for everyone, Emma." "Please." James stood as well, reaching for her hands. "Don't let them win. Don't let fear decide your future." But Emma was already pulling away, her practical nature warring with her growing feelings. "I need time to think," she said. "This is all happening too fast." As she walked away from the garden, leaving James standing alone among the jasmine and cherry blossoms. Emma felt like she was choosing between two impossible futures. Stay and fight for a love that might be real, risking everything she held dear. Or walk away from the most authentic connection she had ever felt, ensuring her safety, but losing the chance at something extraordinary. The collision of their two worlds had created something beautiful. But it had also revealed just how much power those worlds held to either lift them up or tear them apart. The next 24 hours would determine which force would prove stronger. Emma spent a sleepless night staring at the ceiling of her small apartment. Margaret Wellington's check sat on her kitchen table like a tempting escape route, while her phone continued to buzz with increasingly nasty messages from strangers who had somehow gotten her number. By morning, she had made her decision. She would take the money and disappear, protecting her family and ending this impossible dream before it destroyed everyone she loved. At sunrise, Emma packed her few belongings into 2 suitcase cases. She planned to give her notice at the flower shop, accept Margaret's offer, and take the first bus to anywhere far from New York. As she folded her simple dresses, tears fell onto the fabric. She was giving up the most real thing that had ever happened to her, but it was the right choice. The only choice. A gentle knock interrupted her packing. Emma opened the door expecting another reporter, but instead found Miguel, her 22-year-old brother, holding 2 cups of coffee and a bag of pastries from their favorite bakery. A brother's wisdom. "You look terrible," Miguel said, with typical brotherly honesty, pushing past her into the apartment. "When's the last time you ate something?" Emma tried to smile as she accepted the coffee. Miguel had always been the steady one in their family, working 2 jobs while attending community college, never complaining about their modest circumstances. If anyone deserved protection from this scandal, it was him. "Miguel, I need to tell you something," Emma began, but her brother held up his hand. "I already know," he said gently. "The whole world knows, Emma. Your face is on every news website." Emma's heart sank. "I'm so sorry. This is going to affect your school, your work. People are going to associate you with this mess." To her surprise, Miguel laughed. "Do you know what my classmates said when they saw the news? They said, 'Your sister must be amazing if she could make a billionaire stop his own wedding. They think you're a hero.'" Seeing clearly, Miguel sat on the sofa and patted the cushion beside him. "Emma, you've spent your whole life trying to be invisible. You take jobs where you work in the back room. You date guys who don't really see you. You make beautiful things and then hide behind them." Emma felt fresh tears starting. "Because that's where I belong, Miguel. That's where it's safe." "Safe, maybe," Miguel agreed, "but not alive. Yesterday, for the first time since I've known you, you looked truly alive. Terrified, but alive." He pointed to the suitcases. "Running away now isn't going to protect me or anyone else. It's just going to teach you that you were right all along. You don't deserve good things." Miguel stood and walked to Emma's sketchpad, flipping through pages of flower arrangements. "These are beautiful, Emma. But do you know what would make them even more beautiful? If the person who created them believed she deserved to be seen." An unexpected alliance. As Miguel spoke, Emma's phone rang. Sophia's name appeared on the screen. Emma almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. "Emma, where are you?" Sophia's voice was urgent. "James has been looking everywhere for you. He has something important to tell you." "It doesn't matter," Emma said tiredly. "I'm leaving New York today." "No, you're not," came another voice on the line. Emma was shocked to recognize Grace Wellington, James's younger sister, whom she had never met. "Grace?" Emma asked uncertainly. "I'm with Sophia," Grace explained. "We've been working together since yesterday." "Emma, my brother is about to do something that will change everything. But he needs to know you're willing to fight for this too." The grand gesture within an hour. Emma found herself in the back of Sophia's car, driving toward downtown Manhattan. Miguel had insisted on coming along, claiming he wouldn't miss this for anything. Grace sat beside Emma, and despite their different backgrounds, Emma found herself warming to James's sister. "My brother has never defied our parents about anything important," Grace confided. He's been the perfect son his whole life. But yesterday, watching him with you, I saw him actually happy for the first time in years. They pulled up outside the Wellington Technologies building, a gleaming skyscraper that reached toward the clouds. A crowd had gathered on the sidewalk, with news vans and reporters creating a chaotic scene. Sophia parked in a nearby garage, and they made their way through the crowd using a back entrance. Inside the building, Emma felt overwhelmed by the marble floors, glass walls, and the constant hum of important business being conducted. This was James's world. As foreign to her as another planet, the board meeting grace led them to a conference room where they could watch through one way. Glass, as James faced the Wellington Technologies Board of Directors. Emma could see Margaret Wellington sitting at the head of a long table, her expression stern and disapproving. Other board members looked equally serious as James stood before them. "I've called this emergency meeting," James began, his voice carrying clearly through the intercom system, "to announce my resignation as heir and future CEO of Wellington Technologies." Shocked murmurs filled the room. Margaret's face went white, then red with anger. James continued, his voice growing stronger with each word. "For 28 years, I've lived the life you planned for me. I've dated the women you approved of, made the friends you wanted me to have, and prepared to marry someone I didn't love because it served the company's interests." The declaration. "But I've realized something," James said, looking directly at the one-way glass where he somehow knew Emma was watching. "A company built on arranged marriages and social climbing isn't a company I want to inherit. My grandfather built this business on innovation and authenticity. Somewhere along the way, we lost both." Margaret stood up. "James, you're being emotional and irrational. This infatuation with some nobody will pass." "Her name is Emma Rodriguez," James said firmly. "She's not a nobody. She's an artist who creates beauty every day. She's kind to everyone she meets. She sees the world in ways that make me want to be a better person. And yes, I'm in love with her." The room erupted in arguments. But James wasn't finished. "I'm starting my own company," he announced. "Something that focuses on using technology to help small businesses and artists reach their potential. And I'm going to do it with or without Emma Rodriguez, because she's taught me that authenticity matters more than approval." The moment of truth Emma watched through the glass as James faced down his entire family and their business empire. He was giving up everything he had ever known, burning bridges that could never be rebuilt. All for the possibility of something real with her. "I have to go to him," Emma whispered. Grace smiled and handed her a key card. "Conference room be down the hall and to the right." Emma's hand shook as she walked down the hallway. Through the glass walls, she could see James still standing before the board, fielding angry questions and ultimatums. When she opened the door, every head turned toward her. "I'm sorry to interrupt," Emma said, her voice barely audible. James's face lit up when he saw her. "Emma." Margaret Wellington stood up, her voice icy. "Security will escort you out, Miss Rodriguez." "Actually," Emma said, finding her voice growing stronger, "I have something to say first." Finding her voice, Emma walked to the center of the room. Acutely aware of the expensive suits, the disapproving stares, and the magnitude of what James had just sacrificed for her. "Mrs. Wellington, you offered me money to disappear," Emma began. "You told me I didn't know my place. But I've realized something. My place isn't something you get to decide." She looked around the room at the board members. "Mr. Wellington is right. His grandfather started with nothing and built something amazing. But somewhere along the way, you forgot that the best things in life come from taking risks. From believing in people who might surprise you." Emma turned to James. "I don't know if we'll make it. I don't know if love is enough to bridge the gap between our worlds. But I know that running away from the best thing that's ever happened to me isn't the answer." She took his hand. "If you're willing to risk everything for authenticity, then so am I. The new beginning." The board meeting ended in chaos, with some members supporting James's decision and others threatening legal action. But Emma and James barely noticed. They were too busy planning their future together, a future that would be built on their own terms. 6 months later, Emma stood in the window of her new flower shop. Bloom where you're planted, located in a charming neighborhood that bridged Brooklyn and Manhattan. The shop was exactly what she had always dreamed of, a place where people could find unique, artistic arrangements that told their own stories. James's new company? Authentic Enterprises occupied the space above the flower shop. He had kept his promise, creating a platform that helped small businesses and artists reach new customers. His first client had been Emma herself, the wedding on a perfect autumn day. Emma and James were married in the community garden, where they had first really talked. There were no society photographers, no elaborate decorations, just friends and family celebrating something genuine and beautiful. Miguel walked Emma down the makeshift aisle, beaming with pride. Sophia had planned the perfect simple ceremony with flowers arranged entirely by Emma herself. Even Grace was there, having become one of Emma's closest friends, despite their different backgrounds. As Emma and James exchanged vows they had written themselves, promising to support each other's dreams and create a life based on authenticity rather than expectation. The small gathering of people felt like exactly the right size, full-circled during the reception. Held in the garden under string lights and paper lanterns, Emma found herself talking to a young woman who looked nervous and out of place. "I don't really know anyone here," the woman confided. "I think I was invited by mistake." Emma smiled, remembering another event where she had been an accidental guest. "Sometimes the best things happen by mistake," she said kindly. "Would you like me to introduce you to some people?" As Emma led the woman into the circle of celebration, James caught her eye and smiled. They had learned that love wasn't about finding someone who fit into your existing world. It was about finding someone worth creating a new world with. The wrong invitation had led to the right love. And in a city full of strangers, two people had found their way to exactly where they belonged, together. Later that night, as Emma and James danced alone in their garden under the stars, Emma whispered, "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if I hadn't gotten that invitation by mistake?" James pulled her closer. "I think we would have found each other eventually," he said. "Some connections are too strong to be stopped by something as small as an invitation." And as they swayed together in the moonlight, surrounded by the flowers Emma had arranged and the life they had built together, both of them knew he was right. Real love, the kind worth fighting for, finds a way. The end.